A blessed Christmas season to each and every one of you. My name is Paul-André Durocher. I'm the Archbishop of Gatineau. Today we celebrate, on the Sunday after Christmas, a special day in honor of the Holy Family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph. In the 3-year cycle, which we follow in the Catholic Church, we are in year C, and so we'll be reading the Gospel from Luke's Gospel. But the first reading we'll start with is from the first book of Samuel, chapter 1, verses 20 to 22, and then we pick up again at verses 24 to 28. They tell the story of the childhood of Samuel. Samuel was, you could say, the last of the judges of Israel, these great leaders before there was a king, and also, he was the first of the prophets after Moses. So he really is an important figure, and often in the Bible, the authors like to tell the often legendary stories of these great figures. Samuel is no exception. What happened was that Samuel's mother could not bear children. She prayed fervently for a child, making a vow to God that she would offer up her child to God if God should give her one. And so here in due time, so we pick up the reading, in due time Hannah did conceive and bore a son. She named him Samuel, for she said, I've asked him of the Lord, a play on the word to ask of the Lord, Samuel. Her husband Elkanah and all his household went up to offer to the Lord the yearly sacrifice. Every year they would go to the sanctuary at Shiloh. The sanctuary in Jerusalem did not exist yet. And so this is a yearly custom to pay his vow. But Hannah did not go up. She said to her husband, when the child is weaned, as soon as the child is weaned, I will bring him up, that he may appear in the presence of the Lord and remain there forever. I will offer him up as a Nazirite for all time. This was a special vow of consecration and dedication. Another great hero of Israel's story who was a Nazirite was Samson, who did not shave his head nor drink wine. So it's a special status of practically a kind of a monk, you could say, that she's going to give her child to be raised this way. When the child is weaned, she says, in that time, probably the age of 4 or 5 years old. So when she had weaned him, she took him up with her, along with a 3-year-old bull, a measure of flour, and a skin of wine. So this is for the offering. She brought him to the house of the Lord at Shiloh, and the child was young. It's interesting, the emphasis here on the child be young. You could say that the author wants to show the connection between Hannah, who's desired this child for so long, and who's going to give him up. There are 2 sacrifices here. They slaughtered the bull and they brought the child to Eli. Eli was the chief priest at the time. And so this slaughtering of the bull as a sacrifice to God and the offering of their child to be raised in the service of God is the double sacrifice that Hannah is making here. She said to the high priest, "O my Lord, as you live, my Lord, I am the woman who is standing here in your presence, praying to the Lord. For this child I prayed, and the Lord has granted me the petition that I made to him. Therefore I have lent him to the Lord. As long as he lives, he is given to the Lord." And she left him there for the Lord. I think what we can take from this reading here is as strong as family ties are, in ancient Israel, there was a sense sometimes that someone had a special vocation that would detach him or her from their family so that they could dedicate themselves to a particular vocation. We're going to see this in the gospel story again. I think this is why the liturgy makes the link between this story of Samuel and the story we're going to read about Jesus. And perhaps it would be better, actually, to read this story about Jesus before we read the second reading. So let me turn to this. I need to re-find this letter. I've lost it now. Here we go. And so we come to Luke's Gospel here. I'm sorry about the delay here as I look for these readings. The Sunday, and finally here we are. We're reading Luke's Gospel, chapter 2, verses 41 to 52. Every year the parents of Jesus went to Jerusalem for the festival of Passover. What we get from this sentence, Luke is pointing out, is the great piety of Mary and Joseph. Often it would only be the men who would go up for these festivals, but here it's clear that Mary is with Joseph. So it shows how as a couple they are very devoted to the worship of God. When he was 12 years old, Jesus, they went up as usual for the festival. 12 years old is a significant time. It is a time in which young Jewish men are considered able to form part of a synagogue. They become adults in the faith, you could say, at that age. When the festival was ended and they started to return, the boy Jesus stayed behind in Jerusalem, but his parents did not know it. There's no neglect on the part of the parents. It is a choice that Jesus makes to stay there. They assumed that he was in the group of travelers because people would travel either from a village or they would travel as a family gathering. And obviously the young men, he's practically an adult now. He can travel with others in the group. They went a day's journey. Then they started to look for him among their relatives and friends. And when they did not find him, they returned to Jerusalem to search for him. After 3 days long, they found him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. We know this story very well, and we can read it as the story of a family and the tribulations of a family. Obviously, this must have been a great time of anxiety for Mary and for Joseph as they're wondering what has happened to their child. He's barely an adult now. He's still only 12 in his mother's eyes. He's probably very much a child, and they're worried about him. But I think we're called to read it in the setting of the Bible, of the Gospel of Luke, most fundamentally here. These 3 days are making a connection. They echo right away with the 3 days that will lead to the resurrection. We can't help but think of the women in Luke's Gospel who are searching for the risen Jesus. They've gone to the tomb. They can't find his body. They are searching for him. Here it is Mary and Joseph who are searching for Jesus. So there's some foreshadowing here. And so they find him in the temple, sitting among the teachers, listening to them and asking them questions. This is the typical way that the teachers at the temple would conduct their lessons. They would enter into a dialogue with the students. But here, all who heard him were amazed at his understanding and his answers. Obviously, Jesus has a sense of the scriptures that is astounding for someone of his age. And so in the dialogue with the priests there is a reason to be astonished. In the last week before he dies, Jesus will go up to Jerusalem, as he did when he was a child, and he will enter again into a dialogue with the priests. But here he will be their teacher, and they will be confounded, they will be stunned by his teaching, amazed, sometimes angry at him. So again, here we see already in this story a foreshadowing of what will be happening to Jesus at his death and resurrection. When his parents saw him, they were astonished, and his mother said to him, "Child, why have you treated us this way?" This word child is a term of great affection. Why have you treated us like this? Look, your father and I have been searching for you in great anxiety. And he responds to them, "Why were you searching for me?" In the resurrection story in Luke's Gospel, the angel will say to the women, "Why are you searching for him? He is not here, he is risen." Jesus here already, "Why are you searching for me?" And then this surprising answer, Did you not know that I must be in my Father's house? The expression here is hard to understand in Greek. It can be interpreted in different ways. Yes, to be in the Father's house, the Father is God, obviously, and Jesus is recognizing that God truly is his Father, and that this house, this temple, is his home, that he needs to be there. But the expression can also mean, I need to be concerned with my Father's affairs. In other words, the Father has work for me to do. I must be teaching. And again, it's a sense of his vocation. I was making the connection with Samuel, that Samuel has a special vocation, and he's disconnecting himself from his parents to be able to entrust himself to that. Here, Jesus is emphasizing the same thing. My true Father is God, and I have work to do on his behalf. This is why I've come into this world. This is the meaning of my life. But they did not understand what he said to them. It's remarkable. With all the clues and all the information that has been given to Mary and Joseph about the special character of this child, still they do not understand what he is about. This will not be the first time that Jesus will not be understood. In the Gospels, continually in his teaching, people will not understand what he's trying to say, even the disciples. It is only after his resurrection, in the glory of his new life, that they will discover the true meaning of his teaching. He went down with them, came to Nazareth, and he was obedient to them. And so he continues to live in that relationship. His mother treasured all these things in her heart. She treasured them, she pondered them, though she does not understand, she mulls them over, she reflects on them, she prays on this. For me, this is a great invitation to be as Mary, pondering, reflecting on the words of Jesus, the teachings, even those we have difficulty understanding. Jesus increased in wisdom and in years, Luke says, and in favor with God and human beings. In favor with God and human beings. So this story, which only Luke tells, in all the Gospels, only Luke tells this one, he's connecting, you could say, the infancy narratives of the birth of Jesus and his ministry that is going to start in the next verses with his baptism at the hands of John the Baptist. So on this Sunday, a family Sunday, you could say, where we are invited to celebrate the family of Jesus, Mary, and Joseph, we recognize that there is something even more important than family. It's our relationship with God, who is our ultimate Father. And that our families should be places where we come to know our true Father in the same way that Jesus is obedient to listening. Obedience means listening to Mary and Joseph, that Mary reflects that Jesus grows in wisdom and in years and in favor with God. In the same way, our families should be places where all of us can grow in wisdom, in years, and in favor with God's and with other human men and women. So now we go to the second reading, and it's a beautiful reading for this family, for this day dedicated to the family. The first letter of John, chapter 3, verses 1 and 2, and then 21 to 24. Beloved, see what love the Father has given us, that we should be called children of God, and this is what we are. So the readings, this is why I think it's good to end with this second reading, because reading about Samuel and about Jesus, now we understand that we are called to find our true relationships, our foundational relationship in this love that God our Father has for us, to the point of calling us children, his children, but not only calling us that, but truly being children of God. Now, the author continues, the reason the world does not know us is that it does not know him. The world, those who do not receive this teaching of Jesus that God truly is the Father of all human beings, cannot recognize the children, cannot recognize the status of the children of God. But he goes on, beloved, and he often calls his readers beloved. And I think, yes, obviously he loves them, so he's calling them beloved as the writer. But I think more deeply, he's giving them the title of being beloved because they are loved by God. You are beloved. I am beloved. It's a beautiful title. We are the beloved children of God. We are God's children now. What we will be has not yet been revealed, but we know this, that when he is revealed, we will be like him, for we will see him as he is. Somehow, the ultimate manifestation of Jesus will lead to an ultimate transformation of ourselves, and what is true about us will become completely manifest in a way that we cannot imagine right now. So we are children, but what it means fully to be children of God still is a mystery. There's more transformation to happen. The liturgy skips about 20 verses, and we go a bit further into this third chapter of the first letter of John. Beloved, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have boldness before God. Now, just in the previous verse, John has said, even if our hearts condemn us, God does not condemn us. So we can stand with assurance before God. So now he continues, if our hearts do not condemn us, we have boldness before God. We receive from him whatever we ask because we obey his commandments and do what pleases him. The three things go together. See, our prayers for what we ask, our obedience of his commandments, and doing what he pleases. Those three things, being in relationship with God, praying to God, and living out his commandments, the three stand together. So yes, God answers our prayers inasmuch as we are living out a relationship with God in our everyday lives. And what are his commandments? And we could think, well, the 10 commandments of God. John continues, this is his commandment. He brings it down to one. All these commandments, he brings them down to one. But remember the gospel story where somebody asked Jesus, what is the greatest commandment? And Jesus says there are two. So here John echoes Jesus. This is his commandment, that we should believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ, and love one another as he commanded us. It's remarkable here that John replaces the greatest commandment. Jesus said to love, God with all your heart and all your soul and all your might, all your being. Here he's saying that you should believe in the name of his Son, Jesus Christ. But for Christians, this is how we love God. We love God by believing in the one he sent, in believing in his Son, Jesus Christ, and in loving one another. And particularly, John, in his first letter, will emphasize the one another is, first of all, our brothers and sisters who are children of God with us in the faith. If we cannot love them, how do we love the rest of humanity? And this is the true test, the love that we have for one another in the body of Christ. Whoever obeys his commandments abides in him, and he abides in them. If we believe in Jesus and we live out of this love, then we know that God is with us and we are in God. And he concludes, and by this we know that he abides in us by the Spirit that he has given us, the Spirit of his Son, Jesus. The Spirit is what allows us to believe in Jesus. The Spirit is what allows us to love one another. So in this text, we see a remarkable condensation of all the Christian faith in this invitation to believe in Jesus, to love the Father, to be his children as we live in the Spirit and as we love one another in the love of God. This is the family the true family of all Christian men and women. And our natural families, our blood families, our adoptive families, if they are adopted families, are called to embody that. Inasmuch as they embody that, our families become little churches, you could say, portions of the body of Christ, where we all grow in living out the ideal that Christ has called us to live. And with this thought, I bless you, and I can wish you to, I hope that you continue to journey in this Christmas season with grace and with hope.